Hello, and welcome to Apropos, a conversation between Clojure programmers that you can join in live on YouTube. We're going to discuss a few Clojure news items and share our opinions on them. Then we'll jump into a REPL and code some exercises or do some demos. If you're joining us live, feel free to comment in the chat, and we'll try to address those questions. So, the panel today, we have Mia. Hello.
Hi.
We have Mike.
Hola.
We have Reed, who I don't know if he'll pop up. Hello, Reed. And then we have me. I'm Eric. Hello. So we have some exciting topics to talk about. Reed is a guest on our panel. He is not normally here. Ray is on vacation. So,
Filling in.
Yes, we got to fill in.
You need an accent.
Yeah. Otherwise, you're not a perfect substitute. Yeah.
Say tomato. Right. So our first news item today is that Clojure 1.10 is going to drop support for Java 1.8 and below, I think is the news. And so the question is, does that affect us? Are we doomed to never upgrade to 110, or is this going to be a lot of work? What's up?
I'm excited for it, but I think it opens the doorway to Java 8, Java 9's functional interfaces, and that'll be really interesting for Clojure and for integration with the JVM ecosystem going forward.
Interesting. So, like, you're talking about the Java 9 lambdas.
Yeah. Is the big motivation here, as I understand it, is that the Objective Web ASM that Clojure vendors can't generate that stuff on the old Java bytecode standards. So having upgraded the embedded ASM copy, Clojure can now, at least in theory, use these new interfaces and participate with more modern JVM features.
So, so that's interesting. Like, could it? I mean, some library could use Java 9 features right now, right? If you're running on Java 9 and you just said this library requires Java 9, but
like stuff in a standard library, maybe, or
So, like, this is saying like the whole language Clojure requires Java 9, and once you make that step, now Java Clojure itself could say like, well, actually, all these lambdas that you are making can actually like implement the iFun interface or something like that.
Yeah, Gadi Shavon had a really cool patch. I think it was in the Clojure Dev Slack channel a couple days back. It's a Rayify implementation he did in userland that can use the new patched ASM library to generate Java 8, Java 10 predicates from Clojure land.
Ah, okay.
Oh, cool. So something that could participate in the Java 9
does someone
trains?
just...
Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Cool.
Someone just tweeted at you. They're excited that you're on here so they can get you really jazzed up for this one.
No jazzing.
Hey, Artem, Golang is like Lisp for small talk. The Airbnb of Java, if you will.
Oh, yeah. The person that tweeted that is an old college friend who was just trolling me.
It's Uber for data.
I noticed that we don't actually have the error messages on our topics for this show, but I think we should talk about them as well.
I deleted them. We've had those topics for forever.
No, but there's something new. There's finally something new about error messages.
Well, you want to talk about it? We can have an audible and throw them.
We can wing it. Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to take credit for it. I think we should take credit for it. I think we've complained about error messages. No one else in Clojure's history has ever complained about stack traces.
No, we discovered this problem ourselves.
Yeah, we discovered the stack trace problem.
So what is the news? What is the new thing?
CLJ 2373, improvements to exceptions and error messages happen. I think Stu Holloway created it on Monday. It's got 2 or 3 patches attached.
Can you say the number again?
CLJ-2373.
2373.
Thank you, Stu.
Yes, thank you, Stu. This looks really cool, actually.
Putting that in the chat for everybody.
So it basically simplifies the error messages, or kind of it eliminates some of the non-closure parts of the stack trace. Is that what it's doing?
Yeah, I'm actually not really sure yet. I want to take a poke at this. It looks really interesting.
Yeah, I haven't read the actual code. So one thing that I thought was interesting is the user can configure the edge printing. So I would like to know more about that, I think, because all the details when you want is an interesting bullet point there.
Right. So this is the first time I've seen this. It looks like it was created Monday and updated today, so it's still being worked on. So this is totally new to me. Has anyone else seen this? Have read it and understand what it really does?
Not yet. It's just the news, I think. Stuart had a tweet on July 9. Let me so I can link it in the chat. That's showing off what it looks like this with the patch applied.
Okay, so let's see. Proposed implementation changes. Stop printing data into message strings. Exception info.toString should list keys, not entire map contents. Interesting, because that's been one of my pet peeves with the new spec error messages, is that they print out a nice spec message at the top, and then there's like this gigantic map that takes like 50 lines that pushes away all the nice information. And that's just how exception info's printed. So that was just the default behavior. So this is cool that it's just listing the keys. It'll probably just be one line now, because the reason it's so big is it's like a deeply nested map. And so if it's just the top level keys, that would be helpful. Macro expand check should stop including explain out in message. Okay. I don't know if that's maybe part of the problem in the message.
Yeah, that one's interesting. I think like let especially is kind of guilty of really big explain output. Like if you have 50 line let and you forget on the left side, like a binding expression, suddenly it's unreadable.
Right. That makes sense.
And Alex has some printed examples or he's got one printed example in the comments of the error message that's printed by the patch.
Oh, cool. He does let A. So A, the variable without a binding, it just has like one line.
Wow.
That just says, it's in the bindings, the predicate any, insufficient input. So it's too short, basically, is what it says. And then it's got I don't see the keys printed there.
Where did
I see
they go?
up in the top where he just does a throw of the X info.
We get the X data keys. Well, and I guess like it does say, no, it's like the keys are there, sort of, because it says fail spec at, and then it gives you the list of the keys. Predicate any. Right, so it looks like a spec message. It's just a much shorter.
Well, that was already being printed.
That was already there, yeah.
So if you look at the line above where he has the throw, see how it has exception info, oops, and then X data keys.
That's new.
Yeah, that's new, and it's not being printed below. So I wonder what's going on there. Maybe no, I don't know. Maybe
There
if
was
it's in the
something about
compiler, it won't
compile
print that.
exceptions getting wrapped into EX infos, right?
Let me see.
Because it says exception info call to Clojure core let did not conform to spec, has some compilation information. And then it has the spec message. Interesting. I'd love to know more about what's going on here. But I'm sure it's in the patch.
Yeah.
This is just one of the most exciting things. Like, this
I
is
don't
a
know
big pain point.
I don't know if other people have noticed this, but Stuart has been engaged on Twitter in these discussions. So whenever someone mentions Clojure error messages, he does jump in, and there's a lot of back and forth. And maybe he's like, what do I want to say? Not just listening, but like taking the feedback and thinking about it. And like, does this, do we have to take this hard line of like, error messages don't matter, which is kind of what he was communicating before, that they're not as important as other things. And now he's saying like, well, sometimes it's an easy change, and we're gonna do that.
You have things like Expound kind of exploring the space of how things could be better.
Right.
And maybe in a few years that would land in core or something like that,
Yeah.
I think it's interesting to see core taking steps that are clearly around ergonomics for a change.
Yeah, this is a very thoughtful change. Like there's you can tell that a lot of thought went into this patch before it was created.
Yeah, because it doesn't step on Expound's toes really at all. It just sets up for like slightly saner defaults that make it a smoother transition to using something like Expound that really does brilliant formatting.
For sure. And like, to be fair to Cognitect, like, I think error messages are a really hard problem.
Yeah.
That, it's not just like, why don't you make them better, right? I think that they do think a lot about them. Like I saw a post in Clojureverse by Alex Miller the other day, and it was a deeper analysis of the issue of Clojure error messages than I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And it's, it makes you appreciate how difficult this problem is. And it's not just something where it's like, oh, you're not doing anything. Like, would you want us to just bang on the keyboard until like good error messages come out? Like, we got to think about it, right? So I have a lot of sympathy for Cognitect in this case.
And not to mention, like, one of these things that I hadn't thought of, but like we're guilty of this, we have a ton of them, are Clojure tests that parse exception strings.
Wow.
This is a thing. So in the discussion, one of the big bullet points is what happens to programs that parse exception messages. And the first sub bullet is probably should not do this.
They've always been broken. They just happen to be broken like a broken clock. It's right twice a day.
But Clojure's tests do, and we do. Like we have tests that parse exception messages. So that's going to have to change. And I would imagine
Clojure.test.is thrown with message.
Thrown with message, yeah.
Yeah.
That's going to be a big one, and that's right now what I believe most people use to test for a specific error handling. That's going to be.
So that would break. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So you look at the type and the message. Yeah.
Totally worth it, though.
Yeah.
Good times.
I think your tweet was really good. The one where you're commenting that Clojure's error messages were more accidental than anything.
Yeah. That was, yeah.
Yeah, these are purposeful error messages.
Yeah. Very interested to see where this goes. What else is on the board?
I'm looking at the other proposed changes. So instead, print data configurably at the edges.
Yeah, what does that mean?
Don't know.
I think it's trying to. So historically, the compiler has like done some formatting, right? And the problem is that like the compiler has to drop context from the exceptions it throws, because fundamentally it's like rendering a string and throwing a bare exception rather than throwing an exinfo or something else.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the proposal here is to go towards more exinfos everywhere, and then let users look at them later and decide how they want to render them, rather than making assumptions up front about what the user wants to see.
Huh. That's so it's so like different from what everyone proposes, right? Everyone has been proposing like Clojure error messages need to be better in the core. And this is saying like, let's do less to format them. Let's do less to make them look nice, except at the edge, right before it gets printed, we're going to do some.
But that edge can be userland hook, and that's actually really interesting. I think a thing I ran into with John was I tried to make the NS macro really explicit about what it accepted and what error message it threw, and it just wound up being a huge amount of core and a huge amount of special case error messages and logging in the core namespace that this approach entirely avoids.
Okay.
Oh, so there's 3 patches associated with this so far, and the most recent one looks brand new, and I think that's Alex's that he mentioned in the comments here. That's from, I wonder if that's 12:12 a.m. What time zone do you think that is?
Thursday at midnight.
Alex is EST, right?
No, it's Durham, right?
-5 is probably
That's gonna
East
be
Coast.
Eastern.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Raleigh Durham is East Coast. So that so this is pretty new.
Mm-hmm. Okay, you read it. We're gonna keep the chatter up.
All right, sorry. This is
So then the last thing says make compiler exception wrapper special at print time instead of construct time.
Yeah.
So the CE message is compiler exception plus file line, and wrapped message is whatever it is. I guess there must be some. Edge printer should print both. Okay, that's I don't really understand what it was doing before.
This is actually starting to look a lot like, were you there when we had some error message printing problems and Zach tried to write a better error message printer?
Oh no. That sounds extremely relevant. I do not remember this though.
So the toString on looks like exception info now is, it used to be return clojure.lang.exceptioninfo plus get message plus a space plus data.toString.
Right.
Now it is get message plus the data keys plus the I guess the seek of the keys toString. Okay, so what this is doing, I think this is what Reed was saying.
Throwing the data again.
What's that?
Chaining the exception or throwing the data again?
Uh-huh. And it's taking the clojure.lang.exceptioninfo : out of the message. Right? It's out of the toString. So it's I guess relying on the printer to do more of that, which makes a lot of sense. It probably means that when you compose them up, they look better.
Yeah. Because I think the patch me was just looking at was saying default for :render as the REPL hook.
Are you sure?
:render.
I don't see render anywhere here.
I might have the wrong word here.
So this is nice because it just means that when you do a toString on a
:caught. There we go.
You do a toString on an exception, it's going to be nicer, and you can then print it however you want, including in putting in the name of the class of the exception, and when they, I guess, compose up, they're not going to have the name of the not the subclass, what is it called? The cause of the exception included in there. Okay. Anyone else have anything else to say about this? Thank you.
Very exciting.
It's very exciting. It is. It really is. And it's like decomplexion at work. It's not a huge sea change in philosophy. It's simply applying the philosophy a little more. And it's basically saying if you want better error messages, like this will make it easier to make your own better error messages.
Which is, I think, that's very in line with the Clojure philosophy.
Yeah. And it's probably not done yet. It started on Monday. It's already a patch.
We're gonna be babysitting it the whole way through. It's like wake up and check it. It's like Christmas.
Watching with extreme interest.
Simon asked
Never
a very
log off.
zen question. What if .toString on exception also throws an exception?
Don't go there. Don't go there.
Alex, if you're listening, Stu, if you're listening.
Singularity if you hit that thing.
What if it
Get
calls out
sucked into a
to,
vortex.
it calls out to what is that? Fortunecookie.com and gets
Yeah.
another
Yeah.
and the network is down. Oh no.
Can you actually recursion limited JVM with exception throwing? You must be able to.
Nice.
Just
Okay.
your box overheats at that point and melts down.
You're just banned from Clojure forever.
Congratulations, your laptop's now a puddle of aluminum slag.
Okay. Thank you so much for error messages.
Yes, indeed.
We got to talk about them in a
Look forward to
positive
stop
way.
talking about them.
Yeah, that's
So what version of Java do you use? Let me ask that.
I think my laptop is still 1.7 because I'm just going to be conservative.
Like
Mhm.
Ubuntu 14.0, whatever is 1.7, right?
I think I'm on 1.9.
I checked this morning. I'm 1.8.
1.8 is my favorite.
Look, might be 1.8.
1.9 broke a lot of crap.
Java Dash version.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm
I
still
got-
1.8. I didn't want to go to 1.9 because it breaks
Oh.
the path.
Yep, I am 1.8.
yeah, 1.9 has like some deprecated library, not deprecated, removed libraries.
But
Yeah.
class path stuff, yeah.
Yeah,
it
exactly.
just
I
broke
think that I
some-
had wanted to move to 1.9 because I wanted to get out ahead of any potential changes, but it was just too much of a pain in the ass.
Mhm. Yeah, when was that? Maybe it's changed now.
It was a
I don't,
while
think I
ago.
don't think there's really been significant issues. There were a couple like minor library things that had to change, but I think the CIDR dependency injection stuff is broken now, and there's
That's what
kind
it
of
was.
not a clear path forwards there.
I was reading about a fig wheel problem where they were using some dependency that depended on one of the core libraries that was removed in Java, and so they had to issue a new version of Figwheel that had a different dependency, and so there are versions of Figwheel, like older versions, that don't run on 1.9.
Oh,
So it was like it was a forwards compatibility issue, right?
Mhm.
So you had to upgrade Figwheel to move to 1.9.
yeah, it looks like they. I'm looking at the CIDR issues, and it looks like they might have fixed the 1.9 problem a while ago.
I mean, CIDR definitely works under 1.9
Yeah.
and 1.10. It just, I think Dynapath's class path injection broke.
Well, it wasn't starting at all in some cases.
Oh,
It happens.
But 1.8 is
Right.
good.
I have never had a problem with 1.8, so I'm
Yeah.
sticking to it.
Well, and they're retaining support for 1.8, right?
Yeah.
It's anything less than 1.8. So
I mean, what was the Clojure community survey that showed that like 90% of people are already on 1.8?
Huh, interesting.
I feel like the most recent changes have almost been a direct response to the Clojure community survey.
Could be, yeah.
Like we're seeing a response to which versions. I mean, if that's right, we're seeing a response to which version of Java people are using. We're seeing a response to what's consistently the number one pain point for the last however many years. So
Hey Reed, I just thought of this. You mentioned my blog post about accidental error messages.
Yeah.
But you've done a lot more in the Clojure compiler and the sort of the runtime stuff that it does. Does that make sense to you? What I was saying?
Yeah, I actually really like that take. I think it's very fair, in part because it's just really hard to do better. I mean, in Clojure, Ruster and Haskell or something, you just have so much more static information. It's really easy to generate meaningful, deep, context-rich errors ahead of time. In Clojure, like local clearing and lazy sequences and our control abstractions just all make it really hard to predictably get the kind of context you want to really do a good job of formatting error messages ahead of time. So I think something like this change step where we're saying, okay, take a step back, we'll just capture more data and let people decide what they care about, really makes a lot of sense.
Cool. Cool. Well, should we move on?
Yeah.
Now we have to pay for Java.
Oh yeah.
Is that right?
Well, Oracle's a business after all.
Yeah, Oracle says we need to pay $2.50 per user per month.
That's $2.50.
Yes, $2.50 per user per
Let's
month.
see.
Otherwise, no soup for you. Jeez.
Well,
Well,
OpenJDK
no
is over there.
support. I don't know if I've ever used Oracle support, but this is.
Do you think they do therapy? Like,
So that's what they're saying. You just need to pay for support. I mean, that's always.
That's always the case.
Yeah.
It includes Java SE licensing and support for use on desktops, servers, or cloud deployments.
what happens if I do not renew a subscription? At the end of your Java SE subscription, your rights to any commercial software downloaded under the subscription and your access to Oracle Premier support will end. Do they consider Java itself to be commercial software there?
Yeah. That's the difference between Java and OpenJDK. That's
We recommend transitioning your Java SE applications to OpenJDK binaries from Oracle before the end of your subscription if you do not intend to continue. How would that affect Clojure users? If, like, can we move to OpenJDK? Is that a thing? I don't actually know.
Yeah, you can run on OpenJDK, but what I'm curious about is what about all these people who have downloaded Java just from the Oracle website for free, or it comes on their machine or whatever? What are they? I don't know. What are they going to do? Are they going to start how they pop up the update box all the time and be like, oh, you need to pay. Can't run that many method calls before we're going to pop up a message.
well,
So is it all just like if you want to ask for support, though? Is that when it becomes important? Or if you just want to use it, are they going to get in your face and start asking for $1 and $2.50?
I suspect that it's when you start using it, they'll kind of track down anyone they can identify and start getting in your face if they know you're not paying. I know Oracle has sued people in the past over failure to comply with or attempts to avoid their licensing fees. One of my college advisors was a technical advisor in one of those.
So just to even use it, you should be paying. You don't have to be acquiring support from them.
That seems to be what it said on the website.
Okay.
I guess
That's pretty important.
Yeah, I guess the implication is almost that producing it is a form of support.
Yeah. Which it is.
Yeah.
It is technical labor.
Yeah.
I think it's very
Curious how they said
confusing.
that, like IBM JVM or Twitter's JVM, right? That stuff.
Oh, I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah,
Oh, wow. Yeah, there's going to be a huge
because there's a bunch of other JVMs floating around. It's not just
Yeah.
Hotspot.
It's an open source project, so
Yeah, OpenJDK and anything derived from it should be okay, but this
Yeah.
is just if you want to pay up to use the Oracle one.
right. The Oracle one though is the same code as OpenJDK with some things swapped out. So like font rendering engines and stuff might be commercial. So I don't know.
Maybe some Graal is in there.
Maybe that's what it is. They're like, everyone's talking about Graal. We need to start charging money.
Oh, Reed, say Graal.
Graal. What? Okay.
We captured it. Make a super cut.
One of our viewers made a funny video of all of us saying Graal.
Oh.
Graal.
Yeah, I think someone in like JVM compiler Twitter was saying that Graal's kind of the carrot that Oracle thinks they're going to be using to get people onto the page, their JVM. But who knows? I think the Graal team obviously was very defensive of that and were saying things to the effect of they hope to get it into OpenJDK. But who knows if that's going to happen.
I mean, I'm sure it's not going to be.
PhD students aren't free.
I'm sure it's not going to be a big problem. Like, it's not going to really affect much. And Oracle's not, it's going to probably make millions, but not billions from this.
Yeah.
But it also points in this direction that like we, Clojure programmers, but a lot of people are on this stack that is totally out of our control.
Yep.
And we write open source software on this commercial stack. And, maybe we should be looking at making our own stack, our own VM.
Yeah. Chaz has had some maybe spicy takes for years now about how he's like looking at Racket and other platforms fundamentally for this reason.
Does Racket run on its own VM?
Yeah, Racket has its own VM.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And there's also Chicken Scheme has its own VM, and there's a whole bunch of them floating around. None of them are as heavily invested in as the Hotspot VM, obviously, but
Yeah.
Then on the ClojureScript side, you have all these, JavaScript VMs that you target.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a little more healthier on that side.
Yeah.
More diverse, I guess.
I think NDF, Andy Fingerhead, am I enunciating his name right? Does some integration testing of Clojure against like a laundry list of IBM VMs and other people's.
So some people have been preparing for this for a while.
I think there are people that have had commercial users that like required IBM VM in-house or something.
That makes sense.
It also makes me think about, we talk about how much money has been invested in the JVM, and that's all true, and it's great that we can take advantage of it. But I also find it like super complicated. Like, what do I mean by that? Like the Erlang VM has a much simpler garbage collection model. So instead of assuming like we're all sharing one big heap and we have to stop the world to collect garbage, and so now we have this other problem where we have to stop the world for as little time as possible and like keep generations of objects, and all of that is to make this stop the world model faster. What Erlang has is each process has its own heap. And so if you need to do garbage collection, first of all, the heap is tiny because it's just for that one process. And so it takes less time. So it doesn't have to be as fast. And it's only going to stop that one process. The other processes can continue running. So, you've made this like basically an exponential problem. Like every object can reference multiple objects, and then those can reference multiple objects. You have to walk this huge graph through your gigabytes of memory to figure out what you can throw away. And instead, if you just shrink the problem to, we've got, a megabyte of memory and a finite number of objects, and they're all immutable, and so we don't even have to check them again, right? You've changed the whole nature of the problem, and so you don't have to be as efficient and spend billions of dollars like trying to come up with new techniques.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, it's sort of similar to like why like the x86 platform is so complicated now. It's because they're just taking this kind of broken core and just adding to it and adding to it to make it faster and better. And if you could just wipe it clean and start over, you could make something much more clean and elegant. Who's laughing at me over there?
That's a whole can of worms near to my heart.
Yes.
Have you forked something?
So yes, I've opened the discussion. Go ahead.
No, I think the Rust pooled static use, static free model, as well as the immutable memory model, are both really interesting, and there's definitely opportunity for something to come out of that space. I don't know what it looks like when it lands in Lisp land, if we ever really get that. I think there's carp right now. That's a statically compiled Lisp that uses that sort of region memory allocation. There's also some papers from like 2014, 2012 that are fairly new about Lisps and Lisp VMs that use that sort of memory and garbage collection model. But I don't know of anything that's really made it into the production space there yet. Honestly, it's just hard. Like, it's a major engineering project to go write not only a Lisp, but a Lisp with your own compilation target. And the JVM in comparison is just so stable and such a massive investment that transitioning away from it is really difficult to justify.
We are several minutes behind on the REPL. I noticed that we had our REPL spike, and now
everyone wants to see us code.
Everyone wants to see us code. So I think it's time to head on to the REPL.
Let's code. Okay, let me read my thing. I mean, I'll just say it. Like, we're about to jump into the REPL. If you're listening in audio, sorry, this is a visual medium, so you go to YouTube and watch it. So let's switch over to the REPL now. We have a nice, exciting problem to do today. And where is it? So we actually have two to choose from. Does anyone have a preference?
I like the sorted one.
Sorted, okay.
I'm trying to remember them, but
you have two sorted lists, and you want to merge them sorted. And so you don't want to just concatenate them and resort them because that's slow. You want to make a new list that is pre-sorted.
So we could do the very simplest one, which is what you said you don't want to do.
Yeah.
As an illustration.
Yeah.
I no longer have access to the REPL because we reset my computer and I lost my public SSH key.
Oh.
I'm not cool enough to be on the REPL club. I'm a guest.
So
you lost the private one?
Yeah, I lost I lost
it anywhere? Okay.
the whole thing. So we are gonna have to peanut gallery this one, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's cool. Well, Mike is typing, looks like.
I'm trying to put data in, but is this too simple? 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, 6. That's too simple, right?
It's too simple.
Because they're already so it's 1.
Do the odd numbers, 1, 3, 5.
Thank you. Yeah, this sounds better. Okay. And
2, 4, 6.
2, 4, 6.
Yeah, and maybe put a
3 there, just
to have something
mess it up.
Same. Yeah.
Okay.
The rest of it works.
So this is what you said not to do.
Yep.
And then slap a sort on that. Finds the problem.
Right. But you could imagine really long lists, or it's not lazy, so infinite lists, this wouldn't work on.
What happens if you use time, sort, concat, filter even a million, filter odd a million.
Huh.
Just to prove the point.
Okay. Let's see. Oops. Time.
Yeah.
And what were you saying, like range? Like this?
Sure.
Yeah.
Because Clojure will still go in integral units. Or something that big.
And it takes forever to print.
Yeah.
Right, you need to do all on it
And then get a nil.
and then not print it.
I'm surprised the sort is that fast, I guess. Sorry, Mike.
That's okay.
This happens.
Yet again, bitten by laziness.
It's part of learning, right? This is real life.
Put a
yeah.
do all inside the time?
Yeah.
Yes.
Time of do all of sort.
And do we need to throw a nil, or is it going to try to print this? Do all returns nil?
No, do a do
do all
run.
returns.
We'll see what
Yeah.
at the end.
Yeah.
Do run instead of do all. We'll return that. There we go.
Yeah.
So what should I do? Put a
Do run.
Do run.
run instead?
Yeah.
Okay. It returns nil.
Yes.
So, Bruce.
Oh.
Sorry, I hit return while I was in the middle of the string, and out of habit, I can't retrain my brain. Okay.
There. Oh, I didn't keep it.
All right.
It's okay. So just need to throw the do run in there.
And then
There you go.
good. Okay. Ooh.
There we go.
Okay, 1.5 seconds.
Yeah, that's still pretty fast.
That's really fast because there's no. Well, maybe it does create one intermediate list, right? Range doesn't create a list anymore. Concat does, and then but it's this. What the sort does is it creates an array,
Right.
copies everything from the list into the array, and then runs array.sort.
So concat doesn't actually create a list. It's a lazy seek, right?
It's a lazy
what-
seek, right?
Yeah, it's a lazy seek that's chaining the underlying two seeks, both of which are just like current value and the increment unit pair.
Right, but it's a seek, so it is making a const cell, right?
When you get the next, yeah, I think.
Ooh. Oh, that's even faster.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Wow.
It's not a scientific test, but just got rid of the concat
Yeah,
crazy.
that's remarkable.
That is crazy that like seeks are that much slower than
Well, let's cheat. Let's do it again and make sure.
Well, I mean, if you're lazy, then
Don't
you're
believe
just
it.
slow.
Don't be lazy. Use Vex for everything.
So
No, but
that
you
second
did it
run was
again.
not,
Oh, wait. Oh, that's
not as
funny.
dramatically different. Yeah.
Is that being cached somewhere?
No, this is hotspot acting up.
Oh, okay.
If you
Yeah.
like sat that in the loop and like did it 100 times, it would
Mhm.
kind of monetize get faster.
Gotcha.
Yeah, Clojure script has this thing called simple benchmark, which essentially does that.
Yeah.
It puts your expression in a loop. It makes it. It'd be nice if that were in Clojure as well. Just
there's
for
one called
uniformity.
Criterion that
Yeah.
does that.
Oh yeah,
Criterion's
that's
really
the.
good.
It
Yep.
runs it 100 times and averages it or something. Or it runs
Yeah.
it 100 times to warm it up, and then it runs it 100 times again. And
And Cartoon's actually really good because it gives you like a 95th percentile and your 50th percentile and all that good stuff. It doesn't just like give you a flat average.
nice. Okay, so this is the slow one, and we have a benchmark for it.
Sure.
And we have a warm JVM. So are we going to write a new one? I somehow feel we
So-
need a function to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Merger. Take list A and list B. And we need the first and the rest of A and the first and the rest of B. And then it's greater than, if it's we want the lesser one, right? AF is less than BF, then we're going.
I guess it doesn't matter, but
That?
yeah, this is fine.
Yeah. Okay. Then we're gonna do what? Const, then recurse, and then we used that, and we'll just use B.
Okay. Yeah.
Otherwise, we'll put the BF.
That need. Oh, right. You took one off B, so you keep all of B, or you took one off A, so you keep all of B.
And then they take one off B.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, and then I want to,
Nice.
before I hit enter, because this is recursive and not lazy, so this could break the stack, right?
Yes.
So, and I'm also not checking for empty case. So like there's this case where, let's see, cond empty A, we're just going to return B, right?
Right.
Empty B, we're just going to return A.
Mm-hmm.
And then else we'll do this. And so we can actually wrap this in easy seek.
Yeah.
And then close that up.
I think you might be missing one from the cond as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not sure.
Balance.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
We're good. All right. Cool.
Okay. So now let's try merger. Just to test, we're going to do that easy one. Yay.
Okay.
There it is.
And then let's do the big one. Merger range 1e6. Range 1e6.
Does Java use an adaptive sorting algorithm? Or not?
Ooh, it's slower.
Ooh.
No, it got faster. The lazy seek, I think, is the slowdown on all this.
What if you take like, is it lazy? Can you do like this? Sorry, I'm taking control. Let's see.
Go ahead.
Can you do a take 3 right there and get like some good laziness out of it?
Yeah.
Get like the first few.
Huh.
Yep.
I wonder what that answer is. Let's back it out and see.
You might be able to
you're
do.
just huge reducing the. Huh.
It looks like the right answer.
Right.
Because it's only zipping as much as it needs to get to there, right? And
Right.
that's cool.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Because my immediate thought on this whole thing was a reduce, and that would be very greedy and eager, right? It would have to do it all.
Right. So this is, since it's lazy, if you didn't do the do run, I mean, you don't even need to put a limit on the range, right? Like you should be able to do, let's see if it crashes. You should just do like range and range, right? And you could even do like
Yeah.
filter even,
Yeah.
and then filter odd. And you should see that it like comes out right in the end. Like you got all the numbers back together.
Infinity, baby. Yeah. That's nice. Did it give the
Yeah, let's change that do run to do all just to prove the point.
What?
So take 3
Yeah.
gives us a 3 sequence, but do
Yeah.
run
Yeah.
realizes that and returns the nil.
Yeah.
Very
there we
nice.
go.
Oh, there it is.
Take 100.
take 11? Yeah.
Oh,
Bruce.
wow.
Yay, we merged 2 lists.
Beautiful.
Lazily.
That's pretty cool.
Let's look at the code again. I don't know. Do y'all do that where you destructure instead of doing like the first and rest?
Sure. Yeah. I mean,
I use Supervert too.
Yeah.
Mm.
I think the only thing I would have done differently here is I just would have shoved the destruction into the arg list.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
I have been using cond more often recently. It's kind of, at first I was afraid of it due to some unfounded notion that it might be a bad macro expanding into a bunch of garbage. But in the end, I don't care. It looks cleaner, you know?
What
It
did
looks
you use
much
before?
cleaner.
Nested ifs?
Yeah.
I'm
Or
not
something.
ashamed to admit that I'm afraid of cond p still, but
Yeah.
cond I trust.
Yeah, I just went through and put a bunch of took out a bunch of nested ifs and made them cons.
I don't know if you could reduce this to use an or. Because this is really if and a b, then the actual like pick one and recur case. Otherwise, it's or a b, right?
You could do.
We're gonna golf this.
And Simon wants us to explain the difference between do all and do run.
Oh, that's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
So do all is if you have a lazy sequence and you just want to realize the whole thing and get it back, right? Do run is if for some reason you have a lazy sequence that represents some kind of side effects and you just want to run them all. So, traditionally if someone comes to Clojure from like a Lisp and they're like, map print line over this list, and then nothing happens, and they're like, why didn't it print? And it's because of laziness.
Yeah.
And print line only returns nil, so like you're not looking for a list of nils, you want it to happen, so you call do run on it.
Basically, the big difference is whether you want to return, like the practical difference is whether you want to return something at the end of it or whether you don't. So do run is going to return nil. Do all is going to return the sequence.
Amusingly, do all literally just calls do run and then returns the thing it was given. That's how it's defined.
It's cool. Yeah.
That's funny. It's not the opposite. It's not do run calls do all and just returns nil.
No. That would be kind of a more recognizable modern Clojure style. Does anyone else write functions that like do side effects and then explicitly return nil? Or is that just weird?
Sometimes, I guess, yeah. Explicitly return nil, yeah. Yeah.
I did an evil thing, and it's not data.
I mean, I don't think it's that important, though.
Yeah. Cool.
All right. It looks great.
I'm convinced this merge is. It's actually better than the explicit loop one I was thinking about.
Ooh, a loop one?
I
You
like
can
a loop
do it.
recurve,
We have some time.
Well, yeah. Oh, well, you
I
can't.
can't type.
Yeah, you can't type.
You
You
can't
can
type.
type it into chat and they'll paste it.
I immediately reached for the like explicit loop and 2 pointers thing.
I mean, is there a way to do it as a transducer? That's always the question. A transducer that will take two.
Yeah, there's that thing. You want two sequences that you want to operate on.
Huh.
Remember that? We had that problem before.
Yeah, I do.
Hang on. Look, before we do that, I think if we try and generalize merger to arbitrarily many input sequences, that will shed some light on
Oh,
the
that's
transducer
cool.
one. Like mapcat.
Right. There's another thing that we didn't do is we're using less than, which only works for numbers, right?
Right. Yeah.
Not
No compare
comparable, so
explicitly.
we should be doing like say like less than on two strings
Yeah.
work, but compare should work. It gives us a -1. So we could say instead of less than, we could run compare and say neg,
Yeah.
and then that should still work. Oops. Yeah.
Because now we can do neat things like merge whole sequences of maps or something.
Right. Yeah, or strings or whatever.
Yep.
Okay, now you said having like another
Sticks or something.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm just gonna do it like this.
Okay.
And so now we need the first of all of them, right? So we need something like, wait, any of them are empty. We have to, let's say, empty lists. So there's no lists. What do we do? We just return nil.
Yep.
Or we could do the empty list. Then we need to...
We want to recur out any list that becomes empty, right?
remove, so wait. Yeah, we want to get out the lists that are empty. So how do we do that? Maybe we do it down here. So need the firsts. We're going to map first over lists. And then we're going to take the min of that. So that's min, apply.
Yep.
Min.
Does min go by compare?
No, min by does not do compare. I mean, we could sort them. But then you lose the, what I'm worried about is you lose the order and you don't know which one to remove.
Right.
We could do sort by first. Sort by first lists like that. So then we don't have the firsts there.
Oh, interesting.
And so then we can just take the first of the firsts, right? Which is first of firsts. And then we const that.
There is that f first function too, which is kind of rarely used.
And so then we recurse merger.
No, Mike's right. That does need to be f first.
Yeah.
Oh, I wasn't trying to make a point. I was just.
No, you were actually right.
Oh, okay.
I've never used that function in Anchor before.
Then we need
Awesome.
we need to const rest of first.
I think there's like a.
First. Let's do this.
There's an rest function. I'm like 80% sure this exists.
rest.
F rest.
F
Rest.
rest. Okay, I'm gonna do this.
There's nth rest.
It's already too hard for me.
No,
Okay.
F rest doesn't exist. I'm making stuff up.
Sounds like
reconnect
it's
you
time
to
for a
that.
patch to core.
Okay, so we have.
Hang on, I'm checking core. I don't believe this.
There is an nth rest there.
Okay, so we've got them sorted. Now we're going to get the first one.
The first like 2,000 lines of Clojure core is always an amazing read.
First list is the first of sorted. And then the value we're interested in that needs to go first value is the first of the first list. Now, then we need the rest of the first list.
Madstap says there's n next.
Yeah.
There is in next, yeah.
Does that do what we want it to do? I forget.
It's next of next.
Does it do what we wanted to do? That's a different
Yep,
question.
same as next x.
So first value, and now we need to const the first rest onto the rest of sorted. Oh God, this reminds me of Common Lisp. This is what.
Yeah.
It's also starting to look a little biblical.
Look at all those red breads stacked up.
And lo, the first list did beget unto it the first value and the first rest.
I think they needed a data table, but they hadn't been invented yet. Like a family tree. Just draw it, dude.
You can replace all of is it Ecclesiastes with just one
Sufficiently
spreadsheet?
large. Yeah. Big old graph.
Is it Ecclesiastes? No, it's Genesis, right? It's like most of Genesis.
Yeah, it's most of Genesis.
Yeah, all the begats.
All right. So it broke. I don't know if you noticed.
It hanged, right?
It hung where it was, and it's got a lazy seek wrapped around it.
Yeah.
So it must be that we're not actually hitting
Did you
the.
get
Oh,
empty case?
we didn't have the empty case. So we're not removing lists that are empty. So let's do that here. We're going to
What's first?
remove empty.
Yeah.
It's not the best. We're checking all of them, and we know that only the first one has changed.
Well, our first con case is still wrong.
Really?
I'm not sure what that needs to be.
Well, that
is nil.
if
We're done.
if the list if we've removed all of them in this merger in this recur step, right?
Right. But 2 parentheses is not empty list, is
Yes,
it?
it is.
That's apply nothing.
No,
it's
it's
an
empty list.
Really?
Yeah. It's a weird oddity, but true.
Good grief.
Yeah, you've never seen
I
that?
did this long without seeing that ever.
Yay! Yeah, look, watch.
Learned something today. Hang on, I'm trying that in my rep. I don't believe
Yeah. You have to try it
Good
yourself to
grief.
prove it to you.
It's okay.
But don't
All
put
right.
an empty list inside of an empty
Glad
list.
I came on the cast then.
Yeah.
Okay, so that looks like it worked with 2 lists.
That is comical.
Let's do like 1.5, 4.5. Ooh.
Oh, there we go.
Looks plausible to me.
Yep.
And so if we have merger, probably should be nil.
Yeah, I
Instead
would
of
like
empty
that
list.
better.
I think you could get away without doing the sort by, but it would be much more involved.
Would it be like min by?
Yeah, it would be like min by of zip with index or something.
Yeah. Yeah, that sucks.
It would be
Because
the whole thing.
the thing is, we've replaced doing concat and sort with a sort by on every recursion step. So I don't know if it's better.
Yeah. Time and find out. This one way. Micro benchmarks.
Micro benchmarks on very short lists. I mean, this is still lazy, which is good.
I'll give them a list they can't reduce.
We have to go.
Yeah, we do.
All right. Lunchtime is over.
I think
Bye,
we
friends.
can claim success on this problem later on.
Yeah, we won. We
Yeah.
won.
Now I have to actually eat my lunch.
Can't chew on the Caspian.
Can't chew on the cast. Sorry, sorry, Reddit.
What happened?
What?
Oh, what?
I mean, that's not wrong.
You're trying to merge 3 infinite ranges
Oh.
to prove that it's truly lazy.
Yeah, but you can't do a do run on that. So let's
This
see.
seems fine.
Take.
Sure.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Pretty good.
It worked. Wow.
Whoa.
Excellent.
But I wanted to compare that to the non-recursive concat. Oh, you can't concat that.
Yeah, no.
It
No.
would take a while.
All right.
All right.
Don't sort an infinite list, folks. That's the lesson.
Bye, team.
Bye.
Right.
Bye.
Oh, it's not broccoli today. They were out of my favorite.